G'day guys, so I stumbled onto something really interesting the other day. For the longest time I've just assumed that when you make a house in Hamlet it doesn't actually exist on that point of the map. It goes to a faraway place where all the shops are and the ruins and all the other interior things that exist in the world. I say assumed because I'm not sure if there's a way to actually see the location of these interior places on the map in relation to the rest of the world. But I wanted to see if I could work out the relationship between the rooms and use that to map them out in relation to each other at least. And I did that with the use of a telelocator focus. So I started with a row of 5 houses. Each house has a telelocator focus inside and a chest with some charcoal to tell me which house it is from the inside. So what normally happens if you set up multiple telelocators and use the staff while standing inside one, it will send you to the next nearest one. If that were to be the case here, then starting from house 1, we should go to house 2, which is exactly what happens. From house 2, there should be a 50% chance of going back to house 1 or on to house 3, as the houses are exactly the same distance apart and the rooms are identical. However, every single time it would go from house 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5 in a linear progression. And from house 5 it would always take me back to 1. So already this was a bit strange. My first thought was that maybe the houses were being arranged in some kind of circle. That would make sense, I guess. So I decided, alright, let's add a second row of houses. These houses are also identical and the same distance from each other and from the first 5 houses. Now here's where it gets even stranger. This time we start again in house 1 and teleport straight to house 4. And from there we go to 5, 2, 3, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And oddly enough, this order repeats itself. So from 6 we go back to 1, and then 4 and 5 and 2, and it continues in the same way. At this point my circle hypothesis was clearly dead, and now I'm thinking maybe it's just a bunch of numbers or a pattern of numbers and it's not actually a physical place. So I continued by adding a third row of houses, and this time the pattern we get is 1, 3, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 5, 2, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. And that also repeats itself. And as you probably noticed, there is a lot of similarity between this pattern and the previous one. In fact, almost all of it is the same. It's just the first teleport and the houses that were added that are different. So at this point I'm thinking, okay, we've established there is some kind of pattern here. What if I add a row of houses further away? Would that influence the order, or would they be added at the end like the previous row of houses? So I did that, and starting again from house 1, we jump straight to 10 this time, but then follow the exact same pattern all the way to house 11, stick the missing house 3 at the end, and then finish with the new houses in order. So this tells me that it really doesn't matter where I put the houses on the map. What matters is where they fit in this pattern. And more importantly, can you exploit this pattern and predict where you will end up? So this time I started from house 2 instead of house 1, and it sent me to house 10, and the pattern continues exactly as it did before, except skipping house 2 of course. I tried again starting from house 2, and this time it spits me out at house 8. But it still continues the pattern from there. It's almost like I've built a highway and I can get on from different sections depending on what the first teleport is, which seems to be more or less random at this point. So this is pretty cool so far, but let's take it up a notch. I go back to the first 5 houses and add an interior room with its own telelocator focus to each house to see how this affects the pattern. And starting from house 1, we go to interior 1, which is not very helpful at all, to be honest. And from there we go to interior 2, then interior 3, then 3, And this continues all the way to house 5, where it goes back to 1. Now this is very counterproductive because it's just removed 10 of my houses from the pattern. I tried this again, but starting from house 6, which seems to be outside of the pattern now, and it sends me to house 2, then interior 3, and it just continues the previous pattern, continuing to exclude the other houses. This is obviously not what I wanted, so I removed the gems from the telelocators in the interior rooms, effectively taking them out of the pattern. And this time we go from house 1 to 6 to 2, 7, 3, 8, 4, and 5. I'm not sure what happened to houses 9 and 10, but either way, this is a bizarre pattern. I tried again starting from house 11, and it follows the same pattern, except now house 3 is removed for whatever reason. And at this point, I've just given up understanding how this pattern works. But I decided to demolish the interior rooms from houses 2, 3, and 4 to see what effect that would have, and it completely altered the pattern. We seem to have found house 3 again, but now we've lost house 8, and every house after 8 is still in the void somewhere. I tried starting from house 18, and after teleporting to house 5, it picked up the exact same pattern again, but with house 1 missing for whatever reason. There are still so many tests I could run to see what can influence this pattern. I haven't even touched the cave clefts or the ruins. Maybe I'll do that in a future video, but at this point I had been teleporting from houses for over 2 hours, so in conclusion, you can set up some kind of teleportation highway. Adding rooms to the houses seems to shorten the length of that highway considerably, even if you destroy them afterwards. Messing with the interior rooms also seems to be a good way of randomizing the pattern, and it appears as though once the pattern has been established, you can still access it from any of the other houses, but it then forfeits one random house from the pattern. Is this in any way information that can be practically useful in the game? Probably not, but I hope you found it interesting anyway. If you have any theories about this or ideas for how to use it, please let me know in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like so YouTube thinks this is a good video. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.